He drew a circle that shut me out, heretic, rebel, a thing to flout. But love and I had the wit to win. We drew a circle that took him in. So wrote the American poet Edwin Markham. There are times when all of us find ourselves outcasts, outside the circle. 2,000 years ago, a circle was drawn. That circle made Jesus an outcast, a rebel, a heretic. He was accused, he suffered, and he died. Nowadays, we would call him a victim with every right to sue. Yet he raised himself above that circle drawn on the ground and drew another one when he said those powerful words from the cross, "Father, forgive them." His was not a desire for revenge. His was a desire to forgive. It was at that moment that Christ was truly raised up from the earth, raised up from the circles we draw there. It was at that point that he drew a much bigger circle, an all-embracing circle, a circle which includes all of us, even his own executioners. He drew a circle that took them in. Little wonder, then, that he was to rise from the grave. He had already risen above the things of the earth, already risen above those natural feelings you and I have, those feelings of revenge and hatred and unwillingness to forgive. An old Chinese proverb says, "The one who seeks revenge should dig 2 graves." It is ourselves we bury with our feelings of hatred and revenge. But Jesus' new circle, that circle that lifted him up from the earth, ensured that no grave could hold him. We too are lifted from the mere human to the divine when we embrace the love that forgives. Our day has been called the age of victims. Everybody wants to be a victim of something or other, and there are even some who make their living that way. In California, victimhood has reached notorious proportions. I remember the case of a fitness center being sued by one of its members. She stole a towel from the center, and she sued them because when she dried her car with the stolen towel, it scratched the paint. We all know similar stories. All of us are victims of something if we choose to be. Many years ago, when I was ministering to AIDS patients, I went into the room of a very spiritual young man who lay dying. As we were talking, I said something to him about AIDS victims. He stopped me and said, "No, Father, none of us is a victim of anything unless we choose to be. Unpleasant things come the way of each of us during life, but I choose to regard that as an opportunity to grow and to grow closer to my God. I choose not to be a victim, but a victor." I learned an incredible lesson that day from that dying man. We too can choose victory. Oh, we can play the blame game. We can look to an unhappy childhood. We can blame our parents, our teachers, our friends, our enemies for all the failures of our life. But merely assigning blame does not help us to grow and move on. It is rather a chain holding us down, a circle drawn just for us, and we can fall right into that pit. Let us, like the Christ, raise ourselves up from that circle of oppression. Let us raise ourselves up by the forgiving love of God. And let us draw a new circle, a circle which takes in all of humanity, including those we rightly or wrongly blame for how we are today. The Buddhist author Jack Kornfield tells the true story of a 14-year-old gang member who, in order to prove himself to his gang, shot and killed another teenager. This goes on all the time. When he was sentenced to some years in the juvenile prison, the mother of the murdered boy stood up in the court, faced her son's killer, and said, "I am going to kill you." The boy went to prison, and about 6 months later, he received a visitor. It was the mother of the boy he had killed. She was the only visitor he ever received because he had lived on the street and had no family or friends. This woman spoke with him and even gave him a little money for snacks. She began to visit him more and more regularly. When his term ended a few years later, she asked him what his plans were. He had no plans, no family to return to, and he certainly didn't want to go back to the gang. She said, "I will get you a position in the company of a friend of mine. And where are you going to live?" The boy had nowhere to go. She said, "I have a spare room. Come and live in my home." He did. After 8 months of the boy working at the job she had secured for him, eating her food, living in her home, she asked him one day, "Do you remember when I told you in that courtroom that I was going to kill you?" "I sure do," he said. She said, "I have. That killer is dead. That young man who took the innocent life of my boy is no longer on this earth because I did not want him to be living on this earth. That's why I visited you. That's why I got you the job. That's why I took you in, to kill that killer. And now that my son is dead, and now that the killer is dead, I would like to adopt you if you will have me." So it was that the mother of the boy who had been killed adopted the boy who had killed her son and became for him the mother he never had. That woman had risen with no less a glory than the Christ rose. She rose from the things of the earth, from those base human feelings of revenge and hatred, rose to the level of Christ on the cross when he was able to forgive even those who were killing him. Like the Christ, she chose not victimhood, but victory. Victory over herself. In our life, we go through many times when we feel oppressed. We face injustices. We face people who do not understand us or purposely cast us away. We can even face our own killers, killers of the body, or worse, killers of the soul. The choice is ours. We can remain below, outside that circle drawn to exclude us, feel sorry for ourselves, and refuse the opportunity to grow. Or we can, like the man on the cross, draw a bigger circle and rise above all that, victorious. The choice is ours, but know this: a forgiving heart is the only heart light enough to rise to the heavens.